Hello, and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening this month for you. Well, Aries, Ceres is traveling along through your 7th house all month, having arrived back in the sign of Libra. After a several-month retrograde stint, she's finally finishing that up for reals a little bit later this month on a day we call Financial Resolution Day. So what am I talking about here? Well, Ceres has to do with very practical matters, food, body, and money. And these are exactly the sorts of things that get into something of a mess when Ceres goes retrograde, which happens about every year and a half and lasts for 3 months. This year, it happened from early February to early May. She turned retrograde here in your 7th house, creating some messes and some tangles, particularly around eating together with your partner, living with your partner, feeling comfortable in your own skin, running a good, healthy life of the body in your partnership, and finances in your partnership too. And so over that 3-month period from early February to early May, there may have been a lot of messes, a lot of tangles, a lot of snarls about that. But now Ceres this month is direct, moving forward, and has pretty much dealt with all of that stuff. And when we get to July 15th, she will have arrived back at the place where she turned retrograde in the first place, 6 degrees of Libra, and she's ready to go on from here. So whatever came up, at this point, it's about as solved as it's going to be. It's not going to get this messy again, probably until sometime in 2024. And so at this point, settling into the new systems with your partner, or in partnership with the people that you hire to look at your finances with you. For example, if you have a financial advisor or a tax consultant, that sort of thing. I think that at this point, that relationship is probably going to go on from here in a good and stable way. So Juno is traveling through the sign of Cancer this month. She's in your 4th house of home and family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. And she is going to be here until mid-August. She usually spends about 2 months in a given house. She wants you to bring collaboration and partnership to this domain, and that would be the domestic sphere. So she wants you to be collaborative, partnerly, friendly, social. This would be a great time for hosting an event in your home, bringing your network here into your home. Juno is quite the networker. She's the social connector. She's a real social maven, and she does like to hook people up with each other that should know each other, whether that's for professional reasons or personal ones. So this could be a really good time for some kind of event. Like if you happen to be the mother of the bride during this time period, I think this transit of Juno would help you quite a bit. I think that this bodes fair to also support and deepen your sense of partnership with any partner that you have in the domestic sphere, such as a spouse, such as a housemate, especially if you're the only 2 living in the household, and co-parenting as well, co-parenting relationships, even if you don't live with all of your immediate family members. And this is a really great transit for deepening your sympathy because Juno is in the sign of Cancer, and just making those relationships go a lot more smoothly by entering into the spirit of cooperation with those peeps. Now I want to talk about Chiron. I don't talk about Chiron that often, but he's super important. Chiron is the wounded healer, and Chiron is presently on a 7-year journey traveling through the sign of Aries, which is your sign. And whether you have the sun in Aries or an Aries a rising sign, Chiron is at some point during his 7-year journey going to impact you profoundly, and it's going to feel quite personal. Now, this may already have peaked, or it's may be that its peak is yet to come, but any way you look at it, Chiron wants to bring you some wounding, some healing to some wounding that has felt very core, very central, and very much to do with themes of self-protection and drawing lines and boundaries around yourself. Now, Chiron in Aries can bring up feelings of irritation and anger and even rage. And it can trigger wounding that's really, really old, but which you took very personally at the time and may have felt like was a profound crossing of your boundaries at the time. And so in the here and now, when Chiron brings you into a situation when your boundaries are crossed today, you can feel just like that little kid whose boundaries were transgressed years and years and years ago, and that you've completely forgotten about in the hustle and bustle of your everyday life as an adult. And so Chiron can trigger these kind of wounds so that they can come up to the surface and be healed. And then if you, Aries, have gotten imbalanced with your anger, if you have gotten ragey, if you have gotten to where you are suppressing your anger so that when it comes out, it has to be volcanic. This Chiron can help you to find a better balance with that and find ways to defend yourself that are healthy and assertive without having to be aggressive. So Chiron, the reason I'm telling you all of this, and I did say it's a 7-year journey, which it is. So why am I talking about this today? Well, this month, Chiron is going retrograde. And here you see the little red RX symbol is here, showing that Chiron has gone retrograde as of July 23rd. And when Chiron goes retrograde, he takes us, all of us, on an inward journey to discover what is it that, where is the wound? And Chiron will bring us experiences that trigger that wound to come up to the surface. For the result of healing, so that we don't have to be carrying that baggage around for the rest of our lives. So it's uncomfortable, but the results are fantastic. And if you know that it's coming, you can prepare for it. Hey, Julia, what's going on with Mars, Mercury, and Venus for the Aries of the world, especially Mars, because that's Aries' ruling planet?
Yes, it is. Well, hey there, Aries. Let's start with Mars. That's the planet of action and activity, but it also represents our anger and conflict as well. So it can be a bit challenging. So Mars begins this month in your 5th house. This house represents children. It represents gambling. And it also represents dating too. The 5th house can also be a very creative place as well. And with Mars in here, the more challenging side of this transit is if you do have children, there can be some conflict over them, maybe arguing with them or maybe arguing with other people about children. Now, Mars in the 5th house can also be a bad time for gambling, for betting in general too. And it could be a time if you're dating new people where you might be disagreeing with them a lot more, or maybe annoyed with some of the people you're dating. Now, on July 10th, Mars moves into your 6th house. This is a house of work. It represents your workplace. It also represents health. So with Mars in the 6th house, you could be feeling very, very driven at work, getting a lot of work work's done. But again, you could be running into conflict with the people you work with, like your boss, like coworkers, like client and customers too. And since this house also represents health, Mars in the sixth can sometimes aggravate chronic health issues, especially if they involve blood, like anemia or heavy periods, or inflammation as well, headaches, all that kind of stuff can be Mars related in there too, and infections as well. Now, Mars in the sixth can be a great time for getting an active health routine in order. So, doing things to support your health, especially through workouts and activity. Great time to start a new workout. Now, the next planet I want to talk about is Mercury. Mercury represents your mind, and Mercury starts in the fourth house at the beginning of the month. This is a house of home and family. It's a house of the past too. So your mind might be very preoccupied with things from your past with Mercury in the fourth house. You could also be communicating a lot more with people in your family or people that you live with too. Now, by July 10th, Mercury moves into your fifth house. Now, I talked about the fifth house before because Mars was just in there starting off that month. But when Mercury goes into the fifth house, Mercury represents your mind. So your mind might be on more fun and games, which, maybe you want to play some trivia or word games, video games as well. And if you do have children, there might be an increase in communication with them too. Mercury in the fifth house is really great if you do any creative writing. And you could be thinking a lot about dating too. By July 28th, Mercury enters your sixth house where he's going to be joining Mars. And again, the sixth house is a work house. It's a house of organization. It's a house of health. And when Mercury joins Mars there at the end of the month, it's a great time for planning and strategizing around your health, getting more organized, especially in your workplace, and for communicating more with the people you work with. Now, finally, I will mention Venus. She is the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, and she's going to be in your fifth house all month because at the end of the month, she's going to start a whole retrograde cycle here. So Venus in the fifth house. Venus really likes being in the fifth house, and because it's a house of dating and creativity, and Venus is definitely into those things. The beginning of the month can be a good time for dating, especially if you're single, and if you have a relationship, then it's a great time by sort of connecting with your partner through fun and games. Maybe going out together. The fifth house is a house of amusement, so it can represent theaters and clubs and festivals and places you go for fun. Now, by July 22nd, Venus is going to go retrograde. So this is going to last, this cycle is going to last a number of weeks. And when Venus goes retrograde, it's a time of relationship review for us all. So if you are in a relationship, you could be reviewing your relationship through the lens of fifth house matters. So that might mean you could be wondering whether you and your partner have a shared sense of creativity or a shared sense of fun. Do you guys enjoy the same hobbies? How do you let loose with your partner? Those could be things that you're thinking about. And if you are single, then you could be thinking a lot about dating again, or maybe reviewing some of the people you have already been dating, like, am I really sure this person is right for me? Do I want to keep going on dates with them? And a lot of people from your relationship past could come up now too. Exes could be coming out of the woodwork during the cycle as well. So definitely be prepared for that.
Yeah, that can definitely happen.
Hi, Jamie here. Horoscopes and moon videos are fascinating, but they're more general than personal. Did you know we run live workshops monthly and that you can get questions answered about your own chart there? This month's topic is harvesting your Jupiter luck, and in it you can find out when is the next time you'll have money luck, career luck, or relationship luck, or even a period of personal charisma that makes you especially persuasive and attractive to opportunity like a magnet. This workshop is expressly for our Tier 2 Patreon subscribers. It's easy to sign up at the Patreon link in the description below. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get back to the video.
Well, over the last few months, we've been having one easy moon and one difficult moon each month. And that pattern is broken this month. We've got 2 moons with lots of harmony, arguably more harmony than stress, which is really great for me to be able to tell you. Starting on July 3rd, with the full moon in Capricorn right here, landing in your 10th house. Now, when the moon is full, emotions do tend to run high. This is a very intuitive moon. And I say that because there's so much water involved with it. We have 3 planets here in water opposite that moon, the Sun, Mercury, and Juno, all here in Cancer. And they're also forming a trine to Saturn over here in Pisces, another water sign. So there's a lot of intuition built into both of these moons this month, intuition and sympathy, I'd say. We're calling this particular moon Grow Your Emotional Intelligence because of the way that there's this balancing and mirroring thing going on. So the Sun, Mercury, and Juno are very emotional and intuitive, being placed in Cancer, but the moon in Capricorn is in a sign that she expressly does not like being in. Because Capricorn is opposite to the nature of the moon herself, the moon rules and really feels so much more comfortable in Cancer. That's her home turf. Here she is in the most alien turf possible, Capricorn. So we have the very sympathetic and feeling moon, but placed in the very hard, tough, cold, and unsympathetic sign of Capricorn. So there can be a dynamic here where somebody in your workplace, or perhaps you, because really when it comes to a full moon, it's always going to be a relationship dynamic where you might feel like one of these 2 roles you are going to step into, and the other one other people will occupy. So you might feel like you're living out these or experiencing these Cancerian placements in your home life, and you might feel like in your work life you encounter or embody this Capricorn moon. So in other words, you might go to work and have an argument with your spouse who is at home because your spouse is bringing you something very emotional, and you have to have your head together for work. And so you don't have time to listen to all of that. You can't be sympathetic right now, and you've got to clamp down on that. That could be pretty frustrating. On the other hand, you could be the one who is, needing sympathy or wanting to give sympathy and facing somebody, potentially somebody at your work, who just wants to be effective and tough and strong and isn't open to giving or receiving emotional connection at all. But the reason why we're calling this moon Grow Your Emotional Intelligence is because this is a great proving ground for becoming more emotionally intelligent in how you communicate and connect with people. And I'm saying that most especially because Mercury is involved. Mercury is the communicator, and Juno is a connector and networker. And also the way that these 3 have so much great help from Saturn and also from Jupiter, supporting Saturn and Jupiter are supporting both the moon and this cluster of planets with the sun, and helping these disparate factors to get along. So getting the mirroring that maybe you're being too sympathetic or not sympathetic enough, like sympathetic to the point of codependency and whininess and clinginess versus, cold and hard. And yet there will be some factor, whether it is within you or without, in the form of another person, who helps you to see how to find the middle ground. So this is a great moon for that stuff. The second moon this month is coming on the 17th. And this one is a new moon in Cancer, which therefore lands in your 4th house, continuing to light up your home and domestic region. We're calling this one Brilliant Psychic Insights. It is just as intuitive as the other moon, definitely at least because we have a lovely trine to Neptune, and that's a water planet in a water sign, trining this water planet at home in a water sign. So Boku, psychism, and intuition and otherworldly wisdom and support here. And yet there's an opposition to Pluto that introduces quite a bit of stress. And it wouldn't be surprising if underneath this moon, you feel that you want to be more relaxed and more warm and more in touch with your own emotions and your intuitions. And you might feel that some factor at work, which is beyond your control, maybe because it's coming from your boss, or maybe just because of the environment that it happens in, something comes at you that is beyond your control and that makes you feel like people are trying to control you or manipulate you. And you might chafe under that. And add to that this Chiron that I talked about at the top of the horoscope, that that might make the situation a little ouchy, might poke you in a place that hurts, and might be an occasion for bringing up that old wounding. And if in that moment you can remember that that it's just a trigger, and that it may not be what it looks like in the present, but instead hearkening back to something in the past that is healable, and that can leave you more liberated once you've released it. So this is a powerful moon for sure. And there is really great support from Neptune, really great support from Uranus. Uranus is really the reason why we've titled this moon Brilliant Psychic Insights. It's psychic because of all the emphasis on intuition with all the water here, but Uranus brings in a note of brilliance and can bring that lightning bolt from the blue that that just drives that intuition home and makes you aware of it. So this one is a really great one for having, those insights come from seemingly nowhere, even in the midst of a situation where you might be feeling a lot of uncomfortable feels. So the last thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal change. And at the beginning of the month, we see a lot of activity here in your fourth house, really lighting up and emphasizing the domestic sphere and your home life and your inner worlds and worlds of feeling and intuition. And this is the stuff I've been talking about. However, on July 23rd, the sun moves on into your fifth house, and you can see that now the planets have migrated over to the fifth house, so that there's now an emphasis here in the house of fun and pleasure and play. And I like to think of this also as the house of your personal brand. And so, like, you're on social media, right? You've got whatever it is, your Instagram account, your Facebook, your Twitter, whatever it is. And on that social media, by the way, is governed by the 11th house, because that's how you connect with people of like mind that you feel are relatable to you, and form networks and communities and groups that you're aligned with and want to participate in, right? That's all 11th house stuff. But your headshot, your profile picture, the banner on your Instagram presence, these are the things that define you in the wider social sphere. So this is what I mean by your personal brand. You don't have to run a business to have a personal brand. Everybody's got their own stamp of personality and their creative source. So this arena is really being lit up this month as the sun moves into your fifth house, Aries. And Julia has already talked about Venus's presence there and Mercury's presence there, because this is a house of fun and entertainment, pleasure and play, games, hobbies, certainly, but it's also a house of creativity. And it's a house in which we are rather righteously self-absorbed. And so it's a house of self-discovery. So as long as the sun is traversing this house for these 30 days, put a little high quality attention on yourself, put a little attention on your personal brand, maybe get a new headshot and put it on, on that social media profile. Maybe it's been a long time since you went into Facebook and changed your settings and thought about who you're shouting out to when you post there, and what they know about you and what they see about you, and your contact information and your personal information and your photos. And maybe you need to rejigger some of that stuff. This is a really good month for doing that and establishing who you really are when you go and participate in those communities that we're all a part of. The sun will be here for about 30 days, starting on the 23rd. And this is just a really great time for some high quality attention on you.
Well, that's all for today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, then please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
You can find out so much more about how this month's transits affect you in very personal timing in our monthly Patreon workshops. Find the link in the description below to get started. Enjoy your summer, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.